Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly and welcome everybody once again for another amazing video of DIY investing. For today's video, I'm going to be breaking down why I believe that the short-term trend of the US dollar is over and why this ultimately is going to be cementing a bottom in not only Bitcoin but the stock market as well. I don't think that we're going to be breaking past our most recent low that we made a couple months back. In fact, I find it much more likely that the low is in and we now begin the accumulation range heading into the next cycle. This is going to be an insanely profitable time for the people that truly decide to invest, do their due diligence and own research on the matter, and find those specific altcoins that are going to have such monumental cycles. I'm here to break it down for you guys in a way that's easy to understand so that you guys can be best prepared heading forward into this next year. If you're new and just find this channel, always remember to do me a favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribing to the channel for more updates. Make sure you guys hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos like the one provided for you here. And make sure you guys sign up and join the Discord server or go ahead and download my free ebook. Links are in the description for both. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, let's jump right into this amazing video today. Alrighty guys, so here we are to start off today's video. We're going to dive into some Bitcoin analysis. I wanted to give you guys an update. Yesterday my power went out right in the middle of giving you guys an update, so I wasn't actually able to go ahead and video that. So I'm going to go ahead and pretty much summarize what I was going to talk about in yesterday's video today. And let's talk about what pretty much has transpired over the last 24 hours because not a lot has changed from what I was going to tell you guys. Now in the shorter time frames, we basically are having the potential that we could see a little bounce in here, but nonetheless, we have just continued to kind of pull back from our most recent attempt at breaking out of our highs. Now on the dollar, on the daily time frames, what I find is interesting here, we're still below our descending resistance on the OBV. So even though we've made higher highs throughout this period, the OBV is still yet to break out. And with our most recent high that we made here, we actually got stuffed below our resistance on our RSI. So this is technically a short-term bearish divergence on our RSI. It is bearish divergence on our OBV as well. We also have yet to break out of our major descending resistance on this entire accumulation structure. So when I'm watching this, to me it looks a little bit more likely that it's going to have to come down a little bit. But keep in mind, guys, that if we do get a strong impulse here, if we bounce for whatever reason, and we get a big move up, the OBV is going to break out convincingly. This RSI is going to break out convincingly. And so these are potentials that we're watching for. I currently have stop losses in place just in case that was to play out. And so this is kind of what I'm watching out for in the short term with Bitcoin. If we end up selling off and coming back down, for me, I'm going to be watching this main trend. We could bounce, but I would be watching for a move back down to about 21,500. And it is possible we could come all the way back down, break this trend, and then come all the way back down to about 19,000. Any of these are pretty much possible, and I'm watching for any of these scenarios. With that being said, there are certain altcoins inside the market that actually are doing a little bit better than Bitcoin. Some of them have a little bit better of what I would call accumulation structure that looks like it could be an early sign that maybe some of these other ones might have a little bit of a pop before Bitcoin. But, you know, we've been in a downtrend for so long that when this next move comes up, whenever we do get this breakout of this downtrend, it's going to be a very profitable time nonetheless. And so I think that no matter what the short term tells us, whether we come back down a little bit here or whether we end up going up a little bit higher and start breaking out already, it doesn't necessarily matter so much because right now in the big scheme picture, in the grand picture of the trend, this is going to go down as being an amazing opportunity to buy. So now I want to give you guys some little tips on if maybe this is your first go around, maybe you don't know a whole lot of what's actually happening inside the market. And if that's the case, one thing I want you guys to keep a note of, if you're trying to study on new coins, if you're trying to study on old coins, if you're trying to study on, just technology in general inside the space, a couple focal points that you can study upon are simply just going to be new emerging technologies. Think about what was some of the big technology that was kind of blowing up in the last cycle, and then think outside the box. Think about what is some new cryptos that are building in those niche areas. Think outside the box, maybe find some cryptos that are doing something that isn't even inside of a niche that has blown up yet inside of crypto. Because if you can get just a little bit of money, maybe it's $150, a little bit of money in certain projects can actually turn into a significant amount. And $50 is, an amount that we would spend in our everyday life on, a pretty average daily basis. And so if that's the case for you, then, maybe look outside the box into some of these cryptos, because buying now in these low points, the volatility is going to be there. You're going to buy and you're going to watch the crypto drop another 20, 30, 40%. When you're in a bear market, it's extremely tough to know when the absolute time to buy is. And there actually isn't an absolute time to buy. There's great opportunities throughout the entirety of the bear trend. There's great opportunities inside of a bull trend as well. But we got to remember that with Bitcoin flashing our long-term buy signals at these low levels, even if we come back a little lower, even if we bounce here, buying at these levels is going to be a good opportunity. I like to do personally is invest on a bigger term basis, dollar cost averaging, looking at the big parts of a trend, and when we get a long-term buy signal, just doing my part to buy a little bit every time that I can. Because when we're doing it that way, we don't have to nail the exact highs, we don't have to nail the exact lows, and we can get in at the good opportunities when all of our long-term signals give us, and we don't have to worry so much about, what if the market starts running up? What if our analysis was wrong in the short term? And then we get emotional, and we might be over trading in a time where we should just be having patience, thinking to themselves, well, you know what, I'm not going to try and guess the exact price action in the short term. I know that long term this looks like an exceptional time to buy. And so, you know what, I'm going to do my part by investing. I'm going to do my part by investing what I'm willing to do, and I'm going to forget about it. I'm going to look at this as a year, 2, 3 year long trade. And once it moves into profit, once Bitcoin goes into new all-time highs, that's when I'll begin to look into actually scaling out. So that's kind of the way that I think we should look at this, because when we do look at our multiple different charts to go off, keep in mind that this is the total market cap. The total market cap looks a little bit better, and the reason I say at the beginning of our video why I think that altcoins are actually holding up a little bit better, some of them look like they could have a little bit of a pop coming on, is because the total market cap is holding up a little bit better than just Bitcoin is. The OBV has broken out of our resistance. The RSI is still below. We have technically some bearish divergence, but on the RSI, it's not a strong enough signal, and we could definitely see a bounce here on the total market cap. And if that's the case, ultimately we would get a bounce back up to about 1.3 trillion. And with a move like this, I still think that there's a lot of profit potential, at least in the short term. I do expect that on these big type of moves, we'll have these pullbacks back down. And eventually, whenever the juice is kind of lost, whenever it's all gone, whether that's at 30K, whether we run all the way up to 40K, it's hard to say exactly what will play out here. Whenever the juice is going to be gone, I do expect that we're going to have a deep correction back down. And so there's no point, once you start seeing the market break out, making a big move to the upside, really trying to FOMO buy, when you could have done all of that right here in the short term, because the signals have been given. The only reason you wouldn't buy now is just because you're either too scared or you just don't have the money, which either of those two is fine, because one, you're going to learn something. Well, both scenarios you're going to learn something, but if you don't invest because you're scared and the market bounces really high, you're going to learn something. If it takes off without you, you're definitely going to learn something, because that happens to everybody. But that's kind of just the way that I'm looking at the markets, at least in the short term. We do have mixed signals between Bitcoin, between the total market cap. And so depending on the move that's coming, even if you miss out on the short term and you see the big move that jumps up to maybe 30 or 40K, we will see a pullback, and there is always opportunities to get back in the market. And I think the last cycle was an ultimate test of that. We can see that we got one of the largest moves off of our accumulation low that we'd ever seen inside of a bear market. And a lot of people felt like they were getting left out. They felt like, oh my heck, I had so much opportunity to buy in these low points. In fact, I even felt like that back then to some extent. And when it took off like this, and then it came back down, nobody thought that we would end up ever going back down, to retest anywhere close to the range lows. In fact, most everybody, including myself, thought that we would end up bouncing right here at this 6K support. We did bounce, but then we got this COVID capitulation here, and this if you had been patient with cash and money on the sideline, would have marked one of the most amazing buying opportunities that we had ever seen. Altcoins retested such low supports in here that it truly was an amazing opportunity considering what immediately happened to the price following after. This move here was also a really good opportunity to accumulate. I did a lot of Ethereum buying throughout this period. I bought a lot of Bitcoin. I bought a lot of other altcoins like Chainlink throughout that period. So there are periods. This, in my opinion, was a confirmational period that I knew that the major bull run was about to start. This was one of those kind of a black swan event that really drags prices lower. That had you have got in at that time, it would have just been, a truly remarkable period because look at what the market did right after that, right? And so what we just did, where we retested the previous all-time high of the last cycle, I think was pretty much another one of those exact periods. And so even if you missed out in this short term, I would be looking to buy the dips at the very least because I believe the cycle gearing up for us next is going to be absolutely life-changing. Now, one of the big things that I look to that tells me why I believe that the market on Bitcoin is bottomed, why I believe that the SPX is bottomed, is actually the US dollar index. And what we were watching with the OBV was we did technically make a breakout above this high when the price did as well, but we immediately came back below it. And so when we're seeing this type of a move, this is a Wyckoff. This is a distribution top. This is a Wyckoff top pattern where we have a range high, we clear our range low, we clear our range high, and when that happens, we actually end up crashing back below. So the price is sold off. The RSI is also making bearish divergence. The OBV has already got resolution and a follow-through from this bearish pattern. And so this, in my opinion, is exhaustion. And so if we drop it to a bigger time frame, the RSI also has an even bigger bearish divergence that's forming. And this is also coming after pretty much the exact same pattern as the OBV that I just showed you. This is going to be an exhaustive pattern right outside of our resistance. And so I expect a decent pullback for at least the next year. I think that this is telling us the early signs that this will be our next bull run. Anytime that we have had a major sell-off from this resistance, this was our 2016, 2017 bull run. This was our 2020, 2021 bull run. And in my opinion, this will be our next bull run probably in 2023, 2024 type of cycle. And so when we're watching that, we can also look to the SPX. When I'm watching the SPX, the momentum indicators don't tell us a whole lot, but we are sitting right at a major resistance level. This is our first major test inside of this move back up. I don't think that it's likely that we'll just break right out of this without having at least some type of a pullback, even if it's small. But nonetheless, this is going to be our ultimate test. If the dollar's actually topping where it's at, this is going to be breaking out. Our bottom's going to be in here. Even if there is volatility in the short term, there is the potential for an inverse head and shoulder that is pretty obvious, which is why I don't think it's going to play out. If we do get a sell-off, it'll most likely stop prematurely of this having any sort of major impact, but it's something I want you guys to watch out for. I'm sure every single analyst is going to be drawing this and pointing it out, so just keep in mind that right now. But we have about 1.5% till we hit the top of our resistance here. So in the short term, crypto can still bounce a little higher. We're going to have to watch and see exactly what plays out. But there are a lot of good things to look forward to on the bigger picture. On the bigger picture, in my opinion, this is a completed correction. If we look out, we zoom out, it'll look like this. It'll end up going into a new cycle. It'll play out very similarly to many of the other corrections that we've seen in the stock market. But this is our first resistance that we have to clear. So all of this is hinged upon the dollar. If the dollar finally gets resolution and starts falling throughout here, then that's what's going to bottom crypto. That's what's going to bottom Bitcoin. And it's where we're going to actually end up having a brand new cycle. So if you guys found value in this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on any of these amazing videos. If you guys want to join the Discord server or download my free ebook, links are in the description for that. If you guys would also like to sign up for my VIP, follow all my trades that I take, all my analysis that I post, links are in the description to go ahead and sign up on my website for that. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And with that being said, I will catch you in the next one. As always, peace out.